Welcome to our 91-day Business Spotlight Live. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and I'm thrilled today to have with me Erin Harrigan. And Erin's a coach, and she's going to tell us a bit more about her business. Erin, I appreciate you so much for joining us today and taking some time. Can you tell us a bit about what you do and what you work with? As you and I just met just a couple minutes ago in the pre-show, I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you do.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So, I am a Christian business coach for high achieving Christian women with established businesses who have all of the outward success, but they have inward emptiness and unfulfillment. And it's because they've completely relied on their own strength and power to build the business that they have thus far, but they want to now refine and scale and let God lead them. So I do that through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, my podcast, my book, and speaking.
Well, I love that. And it sounds like you've got all the bases covered. Wow, a podcast, you've got the coaching, the speaking, the book, everything else. That's amazing. Talk to us a little bit about that. My wife happens to be one of those Christian businesswomen who's got lots of success, and I don't know that she's feeling unfulfilled, but talk to me a little bit about what does that Christian businesswoman look like, and how do you help them walk through that process to, like you said, move away from just relying on themselves?
Sure. They generally look like those high achievers that they seem to have all of the success, all of the things are growing, they have been established in their business for a while, but they may be in conversations with friends saying things like, I just don't know how much longer I can do this, or I just don't have the joy that I used to have for my business. It feels exhausting and I don't know where else to turn because I've done everything that I can do. And the way that I help them is first to help them understand that they were not made to carry this burden on their own, that they have very specific gifts and talents that God has given them to walk out in the vehicle of their business. And I help them do something called redefine hustle. In other words, they tend to really be adrenalized by the hustle, but they don't want to do it in a frantic, frazzled way. They'd like to work with calm and peace. And redefining it means to actually go back to its original definition, which is to work with intention and purpose. And that's exactly what Jesus did. And so we actually can do that without buying into the hype or the aggressive, frantic hustle, the way that the world defines it. And I help them do that through strategy, accountability, focus sessions, etc., so that they can work with clarity, serenity, and fulfillment.
I love that. I love what you're doing and trying to bring that back in. I was just at a conference last weekend and we were talking about workplace ministry and how to really take what you do as your career, your business, whatever, and make that part of your ministry, reaching out. And it sounds like you're really helping these women do that, as well as just get a level of inner peace and joy that maybe they're not currently experiencing, and uncovering that and coaching them through that. Am I understanding things right, Erin, as you described it?
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit more. Do you work with anybody outside of that scope? Do you work with any other women, or do you ever work with men or anything like that? Or are you purely focused on Christian women business owners?
Purely focused there because that's the assignment that God gave me. And in obedience, He told me, go teach my ambitious daughters what you've learned since giving your life to me in 2014. And so that is really where I focus, which is very niche. And unfortunately for some, they feel like, man, I'd really love to work with you, but that's not my belief system. And I can love everyone, but I'm not meant to work with everyone.
Now, that is so refreshing to hear. I think, so often when we talk to entrepreneurs, we hear that, the entire world is my oyster. Everybody's if you breathe, if we used to say, if you could fog a mirror, you're a good prospect. And it sounds like you've really understood and learned. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story about how, having a focus and walking in God's will really is so critical to be achieving that success. If you would, can you share a little bit? You mentioned in 2014, as you started that journey or finished it. Tell us a little bit about the journey that got you to the point you're at now, Erin.
Well, I've been ambitious my whole life. I like to say that I'm a recovering driver, striver, and achievement chaser. So, from my 30 years of corporate leadership and sales and team building, and then my years in multi level marketing, I was a go getter. I was tenacious. I got it done, and I was always going to the top because why would you go anywhere else if you were going to put in the
Hmm.
work? And in 2014, I woke up with all of the outward symbols of success: the luxury car, the big house, the money in the bank, and all the things. And I was so exhausted, Jonathan. I just was empty and weary. And I reached out to a mentor, and she said, "You don't know who you are or whose you are. You were not made to
Mm.
work this way. And you have a savior who didn't plan for you to do this way." And it was at that point that I realized that I was so self sufficient, pridefully self sufficient, that that had seemed to have served me well from a worldly success perspective. But I looked up and Jesus reached his hands out to me and I gave him the wheel. And after much pruning for about 4 years, but that pruning is still going on, he said, "Now I want you to go teach my ambitious daughters what you've learned." And that is that there is biblical truth and we are to adhere to that in business. And our business is a vehicle for kingdom impact. And so
Mm.
we have such an opportunity in our business to cross paths with people who may never have known Jesus, but we get to reflect him. And how does it look if we're reflecting him from a place of, quite honestly, being a boss babe or a mom boss or making it happen? And one of the statements that I heard was, "Hustle till your haters ask if you're hiring." And that was such
Mm.
like an aggressive, like condescending way to look at it that it really made me turn even further inward and say, "Lord, how do I pursue success your way? How do I align my results, my work rhythms, my strategies to your truth?" And what unfolded was this coaching business and my podcast, etc., because these women, like I was so desperate in need of it, they need it too.
Oh, I absolutely love that. What an amazing story. And I think you're so spot on, man or woman, the need to walk in God's plan. But I love how you're focused specifically because you've had that walk, you've been through that on helping guide these Christian business women to that point that they understand and can embrace some of that. Because so often, especially when we're motivated and entrepreneurial, we have plans and it seems as though they're God's plans because we didn't really ask or take the time to listen.
Right.
It made so much sense. And I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not trying to cast anything at anybody else, but I know when you take that time to listen and really strive, what a difference it can make, not only in what you're doing, but in the happiness, the
Mhm.
joy, the satisfaction that you get out of that. So I really love what you're doing. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'd love if you could, and I don't know if you can, but can you give a tip or two to that Christian businesswoman that's out there now? Maybe they're watching the replay, maybe they're watching live, and they're like, Aaron, I need something. And maybe they're not quite ready to admit it
Mm.
yet. Maybe they're not quite ready to talk to you, but could you give them a tip or two that they could do prior to maybe reaching out to you even?
I find quite often that we don't want to say it out loud because we don't want to appear
Mm,
weak. We don't want people to sort of, never let them see you sweat, right?
yes.
So, one of the things that the Lord gave me was this framework called the 4 keys to redefine hustle. And there are 4 keys that you can start with right away. Those keys are define. How are you defining success? How are you allowing the Lord to define your success and what that looks like for you? Direct. How are you allowing the Lord to direct your day, even from the very beginning, giving him the first fruits of your day to say, "Lord, I have my to-do list, but I lay it at the foot of the cross. You tell me how you're directing me today." Discipline is the third key because we can have the faith and we are most certainly empowered and equipped and qualified for the Holy Spirit, but we have to take action. We have to step in trust and in faith. So we've got to be disciplined in our time and we've got to use our time wisely and even disciplined in who we're working with and what is that client avatar and what are the services that we're offering, etc. And then the fourth key is develop. And in a closed loop system in business, we make the plan, we execute the plan, we learn, and we go back through the process so we get better. And develop is where all of that learning comes to play because the deeper we go with the Lord, the more He reveals to us what He has in store for us and how He wants to use us. So if you're not ready to talk to me, that's cool. I really encourage you to think about those 4 keys. I have a download for that at erinharrigan.com/4 keys, and think about, how are you defining success? How are you allowing the Lord to direct you? How are you putting that into discipline? How are you allowing him to develop you? Because there are people waiting to be served by you. The Lord has already aligned them to your journey, but you've got to let him lead, and it's okay to let go and let him lead.
That is so amazing. I love that. I love the way you verbalize that. That's so, yeah, man, that's great. You mentioned you have the podcast, you've got the book, and obviously I know you do coaching as well. You mentioned your website at erinharrigan.com. But if people are interested in the podcast or the book, or maybe reaching out and saying, have a conversation, what's the best way for them to reach out and connect with you, Erin?
Yeah, for sure. You can direct message me on LinkedIn at Erin Harrigan, or on Instagram at Erin D. Harrigan. Certainly, everything is at my website. My podcast is there. You can also find that on all major stations. It's Redefining Hustle, Pursuing Success as a Christian Woman. My book is there. It's also on Amazon. So go to my website, get to know me, learn my story. You'll get a feel right away if I'm the right person for you to begin to have a conversation with, and then let's chat and connect and see how I might be able to best serve you.
I love that. And that's probably the last question I'd love to ask is, a Christian businesswoman out there, this is a big step to maybe embrace and go, okay, maybe my poop's not in a group quite as well as I thought. And how do I do it? What can they expect if they reach out to you to have a conversation? What should they be expecting at that point?
They can expect a safe, non-judgmental environment. I really leave space for you, because it is hard to admit, even though we know Jesus in every other area of our life, it is hard to admit that we need him to take over in business. So you can
Yes.
expect that you're going to come to me. I'm going to make you feel safe. I'm going to give you the space to express, how do I even integrate my faith in business? I'm going to give you truth with love. And then see, are you the right fit for me? Am I the right fit for you? Because there's enough judgment in this world. You don't need
Mm.
a coach who is applying that judgment as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, Aaron, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today and share what you're doing. I love how the passion just oozes out of you on that, and that's just amazing. I appreciate that. And if you're watching today, here, watching the replay, watching live, Aaron and I literally met. Let's see, 13 minutes ago at this
Right.
point in time. And I love this because, I just learned a whole lot about Aaron and an amazing service that she offers, how she helps Christian business women. If you've got something similar, different, but you're an entrepreneur out there and you're looking to get some highlights, please reach out to me. We're doing these series, this 91-day business spotlight live, for 91 days. We're about 20 days in. We've got about 100 sessions that we're going to do yet, not quite, about 7 or maybe 90. But anyway, we've got about half of those books. We've got about 45 to 50 left. If you're interested, just like Erin did, she reached out. Erin, we've never met before today, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And was this hard or was this easy enough?
So easy.
Awesome. I appreciate that. This is all about you, and we'd love to have you join us. Make a comment down below on the video. I'll reach out. We'll get you details. Erin, I just want to thank you again. This has been such a pleasure to meet you, and I hope we have the opportunity to cross paths down the road, because I just love the passion you've got. I love what you're doing, and the ministry you've got, really following God's leading. It's just so amazing. So thank
Thank
you
you
for that.
so
And
much. It's just been an
thank you
honor to be
everyone
here.
for joining us. Sorry, I didn't mean to
It's
overtalk you.
okay.
Awesome.